Welcome everybody. Today I want to open up Shar HaGilgulim, the Gate of Reincarnations, written 500 years ago by Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the famous Arizal. Now this work is not for everybody, most people won't last, but we're going to get into these secrets and understand what are the 5 names of the soul, 5 levels of the soul, you can think of them, 5 dimensions to a person, right? Because everybody exists in all of the worlds. So therefore, there's a different name for that part of you, which is in whichever world. So in the world of Asiya, as we're going to learn, the name of the soul is called Nefesh. Whenever you're in Yetzirah, we call you Ruach. When you're in the world of Bria, you're referred to as being on the level of Neshama. That's the one that we're all familiar with, Neshama. But then above that, we've got Atzilut, which is the level of Chaya. And above that, you got Adam Kadmon, the highest possible world, which we refer to that level of the soul as Yechida. So you need access to these levels of the soul if you want to enter those worlds. And right now, we are connected to the Nefesh. However, whether it's the Nefesh Bahamit or the Nefesh Elokit depends on your purity. Just to translate, that means that there's 2 levels to the Nefesh. There's the animal Nefesh, and then there's the divine Nefesh. Now, if your vessel is not pure, unfortunately, you're not able to contain the levels of the soul that are holy. And what remains inside of your vessel is a Nefesh Bahamit and the Ruach Tum'ah. That means a spirit of impurity. And that is what occupies the vessels of those that are not Shomer Torah mitzvot. For those who are not, if you're Jewish, who are not Shomer Shabbat, who are not eating kosher, not wrapping tefillin, unfortunately, there is no way to bring down the light of the soul. And so it hovers above you and it waits until you build your vessel, which is through the mitzvot and through the study of Kabbalah, through Torah, halachot, etc. Now, and of course, Gamilut Chasadim, good deeds. Those are all ways of bringing down your soul. This applies to both Jews and non-Jews. Although for non-Jews, they don't have Shabbat, they don't have kosher, they don't have tefillin, but they have the 7 laws of Noah, and they have the responsibility of spreading this wisdom and helping to bring their family and their loved ones to spread the message of the Torah and the oneness of God to the world. Now, let's just open up Shar Gilgulim and see what the Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal, has to say. We will begin with what the rabbis wrote in Brachot 10a, that the Nefesh has 5 names. It's interesting that he's saying that the level Nefesh has 5 names. He didn't say the Neshama. The word Neshama is the most typical word that we use to refer to the soul in Judaism. But in any case, he says, we will begin with what the rabbis wrote, that the Nefesh has 5 names. I'm going to explain why he says the Nefesh here in a second. From the bottom up, they are Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechidah. Certainly, these names have not been ascribed by chance or convenience. This is not a coincidence that these names are titled as such. Rather, you should know that the person himself is the spiritual element within the body, while the body is only a garment for the person and not the person himself. A very important sentence here that we have to understand this, and if we don't understand this, then the rest of all of this study won't make any sense. So, a person is defined by their soul, not by their body. That means if I tell you, who are you? Or if I ask myself, who am I? It is always in reference to the spiritual element that inhabits the vessel of that person's body. The body is the vessel. The soul is the light. Now the body is going to rot and die and become food for the worms after 120 years. So what happens to you? And that's what this book was written about, to explain what happens to the soul. What is the journey of the internal, the true essence of that person after the body basically rots and dies? So the person himself is the soul, not the body. And this is what is written. On the flesh of man, do not anoint. That's from the book of Exodus chapter 30 verse 32. As is noted in Ari, Parashat Bereshit 20b. Meaning he wrote about this concept in another book about that verse. Now, since man connects all 4 worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya, by necessity there has to exist within him sections from all 4 worlds. Let's break that down. We already explained at the beginning that each of these 4 levels or 5 levels of the soul correspond to one of the worlds, one of the olamot in the Kabbalistic framework. We've explained this multiple times before, that reality exists on a spectrum of divine consciousness. Everybody is on a different plane. It's not talking about only higher and lower, but it's talking about the capacity of attaining the light. The size of that person's vessel dictates the amount of spiritual attainment that it is able to achieve. Now, of course, you can build the vessel, but the building of the vessel really just means transforming the impurity within your vessel into a clean aspect. So that's what we call building the vessel, is that you are constructing the vessel with which you could receive the divine light of Hashem in a way that it will last. Because if you have an impure vessel, like we said, for those who are not observant of the Torah's commandments, each according to their kind, whenever you sin, you receive a light, but that light departs immediately. And so you only had, a moment to experience that pleasure, that divine light, because all pleasure is light. But the aftermath of that is a greater distance between you and the light. So sinning is not a way of receiving light, it's a way of distancing yourself from the light. Although you do receive a small flash or a spark of pleasure or light for that moment. But the long term, of course, is in your detriment. Now, it says that man connects all four worlds of Atzilut Bria Yatzira Asiya. So we said that those dimensions, those different planes of existence that we all inhabit at a different level, or the source of our soul comes from a different place on the tree of life, they are categorized into 5 levels. Generally speaking, you hear that there are 4 worlds, but the truth is that there is a 5th world that is the source of these 4 worlds, and the Kabbalists, they call that the first world, really. Adam Kadmon is the name of the first world, which precedes the world of emanation, called Atzilut, which is the domain of the endless light, right? But it is generally left out in Kabbalistic discussions because it's such a high level of reality, the Adam Kadmon, the first world. It's such a high level of spiritual perception that we generally speaking leave it out from the count of the worlds. Although we should just know that there's a 5th world that really exists beyond Atzilut. In any case, therefore, that means we exist in all of these worlds. Because the Nefesh is in Asiya, the lowest world. The Ruach is in Yetzirah, which is above Asiya. The Neshama is in Bria, and the Chaya is in Atzilut. Now, if I'm existing in this world right now, which level of the soul am I on? Where is this world located on the tree of life? And the answer to that is that it's located on the lowest possible rung on the tree of life. That means the lowest world, but the lowest dimension within that world. Because each of these worlds, Asiya, Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, contains 10 dimensions, called 10 Sefirot. So there are Eser Sefirot, that means 10 dimensions, in the world of Asiya. There's Eser Sefirot, the Yetzirah. There's Eser Sefirot, the Bria, the Atzilut, and even the Adam Kadmon. So each of these olamot contains 10 further dimensions. Of course, each one of those dimensions has another 10 dimensions. And the reason is because it's a spectrum. So it keeps going without count. Each dimension has another 10. Each of those 10 has another 10. And so on and so forth. So therefore, these worlds are really worlds within worlds within worlds of spiritual consciousness. Remember, everything is consciousness here. So let's get back. Therefore, we bind. It says that we connect all of the worlds together. There has to exist within him sections from all 4 worlds, like we said. And each section is called by one of the 5 names: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida, as we will explain. So that concludes section 1, the 5 names of the soul, of Shar HaGilgulim, the Gate of Reincarnations. This is, again, by Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, or the Arizal. He wrote this book around 500 years ago, of course, by the scribe of his main student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, who should also be recognized, because without him, he wouldn't have been able to reveal this wisdom. The Arizal said that his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, was the whole purpose that he came into this world for. It was to teach him all of this wisdom. And he was the one who directly wrote down and manifested those teachings in this world through the vessel of Rabbi Chaim Vital. The Arizal was the light in that relationship, the giver, the teacher, while Rabbi Chaim Vital, Zichron Livracha, was the student, the vessel, the recipient. and the manifester, most importantly. Hey everybody, thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't be afraid to share this video with your loved ones, as we know that we are trying to reach as many souls as we possibly can with the wisdom of the Torah, specifically its inner dimensions called Kabbalah, which is the mystical secrets that are contained within God's holy Torah. And I invite you to join me on this effort to spreading this wisdom to the four corners of the world so we can prepare for what we've all been waiting for, the final redemption, where Israel will be redeemed along with the righteous Gentiles.